Moderator, I have pleasure in presenting the report of the Church of Scotland Trust. The activities of the Trust are perhaps less well known than some of the Kirk's other statutory bodies. So for the benefit of commissioners, I think that it's necessary to briefly describe what we do. The Trust's remit covers 4 distinct areas of work: third-party trusts, Pakistan, the Holy Land, and the International Presbytery. Firstly, third-party trusts. The Church of Scotland Trust is trustee of some 50 trusts, set up to benefit in one way or another the work of the Kirk. The size of these trusts range from quite small funds to some of a few thousand, and some with 6 or even 7-figure capital sums. Income, and in some cases capital too, from these funds is then available to meet the charitable objective of that trust. Trust objectives vary, ranging from providing educational grants to divinity students, study grants to ministers, various welfare purposes for existing and retired ministers and their families, financial support for specific congregations or presbyteries, and support for the work of the unincorporated entities, in particular Faith Nurture Forum, Faith Impact Forum, and also Crossreach. Our overriding responsibility is to make sure that the charitable funds are properly applied for their designated purposes. There are occasions where there have been changes in circumstances, and in these cases, we consider whether some reorganisation of a trust is appropriate. This may be possible with the consent of the Office of the Scottish Charity Regulator, that's OSCAR. We are responsible for overseeing the investment of fund capital, which is mainly in one or more of the Church of Scotland investor trust funds, while we also have to ensure that there's sufficient cash resources available to meet claims or grants made for each trust. I should say this is a very efficient and cost-effective way of managing trusts and endowment funds, as very often small trusts can be burdened with substantial administration costs. While the General Treasurer and the Church Law Departments do receive a fee for the work they carry out on behalf of the Church of Scotland Trust, the individual administration fee charged to each trust is very small. It's therefore worth mentioning that for anyone considering creating a legacy to benefit some aspect of the Kirk's work, the Church of Scotland Trust would be a cost-effective and cost-efficient trustee. The Trust Clerk, Madeline Sproul, would be happy to advise on this if you wish. Generally, there's a very satisfactory stream of well-qualified applicants for funds. Investment income has been somewhat reduced in the last couple of years, principally as a result of the impact of COVID, but there are signs of recovery. However, throughout this period, we've been continued to be able to make awards to qualified applicants. Now I'd like to turn to deal with Pakistan. Much of what I have to say about Pakistan has been repeated at previous General Assemblies, but for the benefit of commissioners unfamiliar with this issue, please bear with me if I give a brief summary of the situation. First of all, commissioners might not be aware of the scale of the Christian community in Pakistan. While Christians represent a very tiny minority of the population, there are still between 2 and 3 million. Compare that to Scotland. Church of Scotland interests are located in the Sialkot district, which is in the northeast of Punjab province. Trust of Scotland properties in former colonial lands throughout the world have many years ago been successfully transferred to local national churches. However, Pakistan is a notable exception. In Sialkot, the Church of Scotland Trust continues to have a large property portfolio comprising land, church buildings, residences, and other buildings, but we are under an obligation to divest itself of these interests. The Trust continues to endeavour to transfer its property interest to an appropriate body in terms of the Church of Scotland Trust Order Confirmation Act of 1958. Note the date. However, the Pakistan question is both complex and time-consuming. We have been negotiating with the Church of Pakistan over many years to establish such a trust without much success. Hampering our efforts has been a long series of court cases concerning disputed property title, illegal occupancy, and even the legitimacy of some church appointments. The Trust works closely with Faith Impact in a Pakistani strategy group, ably supported by the Asia Secretary, Sandy Snedden, and our own clerk, Madeline Sproul. We also continue to enjoy the long-time support of our attorney, Dr. Peter David, whose knowledge and local contacts in Sialkot have proved valuable over many years. In 2019, however, we were able to agree the creation of a new succession trust, which was signed by local Pakistani nominated trustees and then duly signed by members of the Trust and the then World Mission Council during the General Assembly of that year. It was returned to Pakistan for registration with the court, and that's where it remains. So it's not yet been registered, and even when that is accomplished, the next task will be for the succession trustees to formally transfer all properties to the new trust within a period of 10 years. Now, COVID might have added to the delays, but it is not the sole cause, and we may remain very concerned about expensive litigation necessary to defend the Church's property portfolio, and it continues to be a drain on the Church of Scotland's scarce financial resources. However, following a period of virtually no activity in Pakistan, we have in recent months been able to re-engage with the registration authorities. And our Pakistani lawyer is in dialogue with the court officials. Timing's everything. An update arrived just this morning by email from the Bishop Alwyn in Pakistan. He has confirmed that police officers are now actively in the process of making the necessary inquiries that will then meet the new trustees. If you're alarmed about the police, I think this is something like doing background investigations in this country as to whether they're suitable as trustees. Following this, they see that they will then be able to go to the final stages of registering the trust. So let's hope that happens. I'll now like to turn to our work concerning the Holy Land. The Church of Scotland Trust acts as trustee on behalf of Faith Impact Forum and the Presbytery of Jerusalem, holding heritable and other assets on their behalf. As has been usual practice, the Church of Scotland Trust is consulted by Faith Impact Forum on all major financial, land and property developments. A recent example is the renovation of the guest house in Jerusalem. A designated steering group has overseen this work, which was carried out in 2019 and 20. But the imposition of COVID-related restrictions has meant that the final sign-off of that project was held up until the end of 2021. COVID restrictions in Israel have also continued to have a significant effect on trading results in the hotel at Tiberias and the delayed reopening of the guest house in Jerusalem. The financial situation has, however, been managed very carefully, and at the time of writing, with the easing of COVID restrictions throughout Israel, the trading situation is much improved. Lastly, let me deal with international presbytery. Since 2016, the Church of Scotland Trust has had a broadly similar role in the international presbytery to that of the general trustees in Scotland. The process is now well established, and proposals concerning property matters are being routinely reviewed by the Trust. It must be recognised that there are particular challenges in making this work in international. Congregations and kirk sessions are typically very small indeed. The area of the presbytery is large, making communication difficult. And the property portfolio includes some very high-value assets, many in need of costly repairs, with limited financial resources to deal with. A number of significant developments and transactions have been reviewed during the year, including the downsizing or replacement of man's properties. The Trust notes the changes which will be required in the International Presbytery due to the Presbytery Mission Plan Act 2021. And we will work with the Presbytery to assist with the implementation of the Act. In conclusion, Moderator, the membership of the Church of Scotland Trust includes 2 former moderators, the principal clerk, together with experienced accountants, lawyers and surveyors. We are very ably supported by the General Treasurer and the Law Department. In particular, we're indebted to our clerk, Madeline Sproul. for her first-rate professionalism and dedication in keeping the Trust's business affairs functioning efficiently. My own term of office as Chairman of the Trust will be completed on the 31st of May this year, and I will return to the back benches. It's recommended that the General Assembly appoint Mr. Lain Marshall as Chairman from 1st of June. The term of office of the Vice Chairman of the Trust, Mr. Stuart Lynch, will be completed also at the end of May. It's recommended that Mrs. Morag Angus has become Vice Chairman from 1st June. In accordance with the Constitution of the Trust, the following two members retire by rotation, but are being eligible for reappointment. These are Mr. Angus Besson and the Very Reverend Dr. John Chalmers. It is suggested to the General Assembly that both are reappointed as members of the Trust. I should add that Stuart Lynch has intimated his resignation from the Trust, effective 31st May. And as the longest-serving member of the Trust, members should like to record their sincere gratitude for his dedicated contribution to the work of the Trust over 26 years. Stuart. Stuart's in-depth knowledge of the work of the Trust will be greatly missed. Also, the Reverend Ian Cunningham also intimated his resignation from the Trust in February, and members would like to record their appreciation for his contribution to the work of the Trust since 2014. New member is suggested that Mrs Valerie Macniven be appointed as a new member of the Trust from 1st of June. Finally, I take this opportunity of tabling the Trust accounts for the year ending 31st of December 2021. Copies of these accounts are available for inspection by request to our Secretary and Clerk, Madeline Sproul. Moderator, I commend the report to the Assembly, and as I am not a Commissioner, I ask the Principal Clerk to move the deliverances.
Moderator, I so move. I so move.
Seconded.
Just acquired a very deep voice there, Christine. Thank you, Convener. Are there any questions or comments? None? Can we move then to the report? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the deliverance as a whole. Convener, can I thank you for your report and for the ongoing work and patient work too, by the sound of it, of the Trust. You were appointed as Chairman by the General Assembly of 2018 after serving as Vice Chairman. And I want to thank you on behalf of the General Assembly and the Church for bringing your skills and commitment to these tasks and this task as Chairman. And thank you, after those years, now that you step down as Chair, for agreeing to continue to remain as a member of the Trust. We are very grateful to you and to every member of the Trust for all your hard work, diligence and expertise. On the General Assembly's behalf, thank you all. Well done. Thank you.